and you just came off a draw, I think rematching will be the most competitive thing to do as an athlete. With the Jake Paul situation, it's like, it's a money grab fight.
Davis was in a bit of a hole, and he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money. Nope.
The fight is getting closer as Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis push through intense training. For their big clash, Jake is focused on building his strength and size, while Tank is sharpening his speed and knockout punches. Both camps are locked in, and the pressure keeps rising as fans closely follow how each fighter gets ready for one of the most talked about showdowns.
I don't get it.
Yeah. This Santa Cruz out here today.
Jake down, let it burn, baby, let it burn.
Mind over matter, son. Mind over matter.
This is the blues I'm
Ain't nobody doing no shit like this. Come in the desert. He trying to stay away from the desert. He come in the desert.
Shocker Stevenson shared his thoughts on the trend of unusual boxing matchups. He said fights like Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis don't really help the sport, but something like Floyd Mayweather versus Mike Tyson feels different. In his view, Mayweather and Tyson are legends who already proved themselves. So if they want to step back in the ring to make money, it shouldn't be seen as hurting boxing. Stevenson added that these kinds of fights bring back nostalgia for fans, unlike celebrity exhibitions that lower the sport's value.
Bad for the sport of boxing.
I mean, I feel like in Floyd and Tyson's situation is different than Jake Paul and Buddy. I feel like with Floyd and Tyson, it's like, okay, y'all deserve it. Y'all legends, y'all paid homage, y'all did the most for the sport of boxing already. So you deserve a big payday and be cool. I'm cool with it. I like it. But with Jake and Buddy, I feel like Buddy is a participate in the sport of boxing right now, and he just came off a draw his last fight. So if you're a real champion and top level guy that you say you are, which I think you are too, I think you're the truth. But if you're that guy and you just came off a draw, I think rematching will be the most competitive thing to do as an athlete. With the Jake Paul situation, is like, it's a money grab fight. So to me, it's like some WWE shit.
Yeah, it's a choke out. Like, I mean, okay, so he gets this fight with Jake. His value goes up.
No, it doesn't.
You don't? It don't?
Not in the sport of boxing.
You don't
I
think
mean, it may.
the demand more because he's, you know, because when we looked at the was a Floyd and
Just hypothetical. You know, we speak hypotheticals at time, right? You go in there and that big ass nigga knock him the fuck out. I'm just saying hypothetical. Go in there and knock Tank the fuck out.
that big ass nigga being Jake Paul.
Yes.
Okay, just make
Knock him the fuck out. Because he's bigger than him.
Yeah.
For one. By chance, it is a fight.
I think the thing is with Buddy and Jake fight, I feel like it's two sides of me with it. Because from a competitive aspect and me being the mentality that I got, I feel as though I probably would have done the rematch. But then from a business aspect, if I would have done the rematch and I did not win the fight, the Jake Paul fight will be a lot less money and a lot less lucrative. So,
You think so?
from a business aspect, I understand that anybody that with a business mind probably would have took that fight for as much money as it was. So I'm a realist. Like, I ain't gonna just bash, bro.
UFC President Dana White gave a no-nonsense response when asked about the possible showdown between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. White said not many fans are truly excited for the fight, but admitted it might actually work in Davis's favor. Davis has been dealing with public criticism and problems outside the ring, which slowed his career. Jake Paul came forward with a money offer during this difficult stretch. White noted that even though many are laughing at the matchup, it could still bring Davis attention and a much-needed payday. Taking it a step further, White shocked everyone by saying Jake Paul could realistically beat Davis. His argument wasn't about boxing skill, but about physical strength. White pointed out that Paul holds the edge in size, reach, and power, while Davis, though dangerous, is smaller and used to lighter opponents. For White, the fight isn't about who the better boxer is, but whether Davis can handle Paul's natural advantages inside the ring.
Paul to beat Gervonta Davis. This is not a fight that I'm excited for at all. I would rather have Gervonta Davis fighting in a real boxing match against the likes of Lamont Roach, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Emmanuel Navarrete, anybody that is in the 135-pound division and around. That's who I want to see Gervonta Davis fight. However, we live in a world where everybody is trying to do things as big as possible. And the biggest fights possible right now, unfortunately for the sport of boxing, is an exhibition fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. So, I do like it for this reason, though. I like it because it is allowing Gervonta Davis to have a fight that is going to be big and that the mainstream media is going to have to cover, the mainstream media outside the world of boxing. Gervonta Davis has been, without a doubt, blocked, having venues blocked, having fighters, having other promoters paying fighters away to go different directions from Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis was in a bit of a hole, and he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries. But you gotta love Dana White having the audacity to pick Jake Paul in this fight.
Former world champion Paulie Malignaggi shared his honest opinion on the idea of Terrence Crawford fighting Jake Paul. He praised Crawford as one of the most skilled fighters in modern boxing, but warned that size differences can sometimes outweigh pure talent. Malignaggi explained that history has often shown smaller champions struggling when moving to far up in weight. He stressed that Jake Paul's natural size and raw punching power could cause big problems for Crawford, even with his sharper technique. For Malignaggi, the question isn't about who has more skill, but about physical limits. Boxing is still a sport where size, strength, and toughness matter. He suggested that even a fighter as smart and adaptable as Crawford could be taking a huge risk against someone who outweighs him so heavily, proving that skill alone can't always erase the challenges of size.
Davis is more to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinch, you ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks...
The answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah, but if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion in multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy. If he hits you clean, so we know the risk. But how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing. And I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot that he still hasn't earned?
Analysts revealed that organizers had to make a big change after the original venue refused to host the highly anticipated fight. Local officials reportedly dismissed the matchup as more of a circus act than a real sporting event, flat out rejecting the proposal. The decision shocked many since the first location was seen as perfect for drawing a huge crowd and generating major revenue rather than cancel or postpone. Promoters rushed to secure a new spot that would welcome the spectacle. Within days, they locked in a replacement venue, ensuring the fight would move forward as planned. Still, the sudden switch has fueled doubts about the event's credibility. Critics argue that if such a respected arena turned it down, the matchup may not carry much sporting value. To them, it looks more about money and entertainment than true competition. The quick relocation has now become part of the story itself, with many saying the controversy highlights the ongoing debate about whether these crossover fights really belong in boxing.
35 pounds. Jake Paul is over 50 pounds heavier than Gervonta Tank Davis, and he's nearly a foot taller than Gervonta Tank Davis. So no sanction body wants to, and no commission wants to, should I say, I keep saying sanction body, no commission wants to sanction it. They don't want to be a part of it, as I told you guys. So they announced that the fight was going to take place November 14th in Atlanta at the State Farm Arena where the Atlanta Hawks play. And the Georgia Athletic Commission, he came out and he made a serious statement. And he let the world know that they falsely advertised this fight, okay? Because no commission won't sanction it to be a real boxing match, let alone they're not even interested in allowing it to be an exhibition, okay? They don't even want it to be, they don't even want to be responsible for an exhibition of this magnitude, right? So he comes out and he says, the commissioner, head of the Georgia Commission, he comes out and he says, quote, I believe it's in the public's interest to know because they've been promoting something they should not have been promoting. It's the dumbest thing I ever heard. It's a money grabber, and I'm not okay with that. So they telling him it's just for the money.
Retired champion Carl Froch shared his thoughts, saying Jake Paul's boxing career is driven purely by money. Froch argued that Paul isn't chasing greatness in the sport, but is instead focused on financial opportunities. In his view, Paul chooses opponents based on what will create the most buzz and revenue rather than who will truly test him in the ring. Froch admitted this approach works well for promotion, but insisted it stops Paul from earning real respect as a serious competitor in boxing.
Mentioned me before, and there'll be people out there saying, oh, Carl Froch's talking about himself, he's after a payday. Listen, I'm not after a payday. I'm doing all right. There's no problems with my finances. But I'll take the fucking payday, of course I will. And I'll end Jake Paul with one punch. I'd go in there one-armed and beat this guy. He can't box. He's absolutely fucking useless, which we saw last night with Mike Tyson. Talking about Canelo Alvarez. I've not mentioned Canelo Alvarez because it's just laughable. Jake Paul, Canelo Alvarez, can you imagine? I mean, if Jake Paul fancies that and he jumps in the ring with him, I will pay homage to him because fair play. If he jumps in there with Canelo Alvarez, he'll get absolutely fucking destroyed and it will be fast and it will be messy and it will be bad for his health.
MMA star Nate Diaz brushed off the matchup completely, saying he didn't even care to make a prediction. To Diaz, the fight isn't a real contest, but just a spectacle made to sell pay-per-views. He blasted the direction boxing is heading, arguing that it leans too much on these manufactured events and hurts the sport's credibility. Diaz stressed that fights like this aren't about real competition, but only about profit. For that reason, he refuses to treat them as serious sporting events.
I gotta ask you, Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. Does Davis have a chance?
Fuck no. Gervonta is a great boxer, but he ain't gonna be.
So you got Jake Paul by knockout?
No, I don't got anybody, but I don't think
He's just too small.
It's just I don't want to beat up somebody that's small. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to lose to somebody that's. There's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually. You're not hating on the fight, but I think my thought process is let's watch and see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said his boxing turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. Do you agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE. So
right.
Like, at least that's happening and getting something to talk about, something to watch. And I'm looking forward.
One of the most debated parts of the possible Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight is the huge gap in their size and physical attributes. Jake Paul, who has already faced bigger opponents and naturally carries much more weight, comes in with a clear advantage in height, reach, and overall frame. On the other hand, Gervonta Davis is a 5'5" fighter who usually competes at around 130 pounds, where his explosiveness and knockout power have made him one of the most dangerous men in his division against fighters his own size. Davis's ability to close the distance and land fight-ending shots has always been his biggest weapon, but against someone as big and physically imposing as Paul, the question is whether his power would be enough to even the odds. Analysts worry that Davis may struggle to get close without taking heavy punishment from Paul, who can use his size to keep control of the range. The debate keeps coming back to whether skill and speed can overcome such a massive size difference. While some fans believe Davis's explosiveness gives him a chance, many others think the size gap could make this fight more risky than competitive.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is actually happening. What the f is going on? I guess Tank is going broke because that's the only justifiable reason you ruin your legacy against a guy like Jake Paul. And yes, I do think Jake Paul is going to win. Tank Davis is a much better boxer and has crazy power, but he's 5'5", 130. That power is not going to carry over against someone who is 6'1", 210. And it's not like Jake is bad. Yes, his fights are boring. He says he's going to step in the ring and sleep his opponents, but the only people who end up sleeping are the audience. Mike Tyson fight, but at the end of the day, he's a big guy with power who's training boxing full time, and he has beaten some legitimate competition. Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Mike Perry had a competitive fight with Tommy Fury, but it's crazy how particular Jake has to be when selecting his opponents. They have to have enough clout to be interesting, enough skill to be taken seriously as a threat, but at the same time have clear weaknesses and disadvantages that Jake and his team can exploit to win. Now that he's fighting an elite boxer, he has to fight someone 7 weight classes down. I mean, Tank could win if he makes Jake do a very aggressive weight cut, but I just don't see that happening. I got Jake by 3rd round TKO. He should put me on the co-main event and allow me to fight Francis Ngannou. That would be an easy 1st round knockout for me.
Fans and analysts have grown frustrated with how unusual fights keep stealing the spotlight. In recent years, the proposed clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis is seen as a clear example of this troubling trend. Instead of highlighting meaningful bouts that create new champions or settle real rivalries, promoters are pushing spectacles that mix sport with entertainment. Critics argue this shift hurts boxing's tradition and lets down purists who want true competition. That showcases elite talent, not events built only for hype and media buzz.
So breaking news, Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in the exhibition on November 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamont Roach after their first fight went to a draw. But instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last, or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So he's supposed to be fighting either ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight. But instead, he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously, is a lot more skilled. Jake has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you...
An analyst looking at the rise of the Paul brothers pointed out that their whole strategy is built around grabbing attention. He explained that Logan and Jake don't care about criticism because every bit of backlash only sparks more interest. Whether people cheer them on or mock them, they keep dominating headlines by staging controversial events. From this angle, their choice of opponents isn't really about climbing the boxing ladder, but about making news. According to this view, their ability to stay in the spotlight is the main reason they continue to hold a place in the sport, no matter how much some fans disapprove.
It's like blockbuster events. They don't look at them as sporting events. They look at them as spectacle. I mean, Logan's in the fucking WWE, for God's sake. That's the way they look at it. And that's the way Jake looks at these kind of events. He does, because he's fighting Gervonta Davis. Into any sports, hardcore, competition, morale, effort, you know, legacy, hierarchy, minded sports person, none of it makes any sense. Because we go, well, no, Gervonta is not in Jake's weight class. What does that prove? We do sport to prove who's better at sport, not with inherent advantages or disadvantages or XYZ. Logan, and I guess Jake for that matter, look at these like, we want to get the most eyes possible regardless of what people say. And I think that Logan and Jake both believe this, because of the disadvantages we came into the sport with, if we are to do better than people expected, or if we're able to win or knock someone out, then we're better, which is not true because there's massive disadvantages on the other end. I would say that outweigh the disadvantages on their end, at least Jake said. The way they market these things and act like if I beat Gervonta, I'm better, or if Logan was like, I beat Floyd and I'm the best boxer in the world, when Floyd wasn't the best boxer when Logan fought him, and also it was a 60-pound weight difference. Like, the way they categorize and narrative shape around it is the thing people get upset about.